Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you a very instructive endgame puzzle that hopefully you can apply in one of your own games. So just take note of this position really quickly. The pawns are going up the board, the white pawns, and the black pawns are coming down the board toward the white king. And the goal is to see if you can find the winning continuation for white. So if you want to take a second, feel free to pause the video and give it a shot. And while you're at it, please subscribe if you have not yet. Half the income I earn goes directly to charity, so it helps out a lot, and it's free to you. Okay, so when I first saw this puzzle, my first thought was king e2. Right, just get my king in the middle of the board, try to have a little race. My blitz self didn't even think anything else. So after this move, it turns out it's not exactly clear, and the position is about +1 because I'm up a pawn after all, but it's kind of hard to really materialize that into a victory. So after king b4, you can try to approach with the king, but right now you want to hold on to this pawn, so you push it to keep it held. But it seems like after king b5, there's not really a good way to make progress. So when I was playing this, I thought maybe king d3, maybe I'm trying to run in kind of diagonally, maybe something like this. At some point, I'm thinking about giving this pawn up in exchange for that guy. It didn't really make sense though. So something like this. In this position, by the way, the only decent move for black is to play c4, and the consequence of that is that my king is blocked out. So if I want to run around, whether that way or that way, I have to go a couple of extra steps, and not even this way, right? So it definitely takes some doing here. It still might be a win, but it's not as clean as the other move. So let's see, in this initial position, what is this move I'm talking about? Well, you might see it, but I want to see if you can see the very deep variation. You might see the first move and go, okay, what does that do? The move in this position, believe it or not, bishop a5. Now, what is amazing about this move? Well, first of all, it looks kind of weird. That doesn't make it amazing. That just makes it look weird. But what is special about it? Doesn't that just drop a pawn? After king b3, how are you defending this? You can't defend it, right? Well, here is where you're supposed to calculate deeply. And if you're able to see this, amazing job. And this is actually why I want to show this puzzle. So after king b3, this is the superstar move right here. Bishop to c3. Look at that move. You might go, wait a second, Frank. This bishop can be taken by the king and by the bishop. What is so great about it? Well, let's look at both of those captures. Let's see, capture with the king. This pawn is going to run. And you may have thought, yeah, I saw that, but after a5, I can play pawn c4, and I'm going to get on this diagonal. And you're not going to be able to push. And that is true. What you said there is true. But you got to remember, I have two pawns, and one of these is going to become a queen. I push this one, you have to take, or else I'm going to push, and that gives me one free move with you away from this diagonal. So you can't make this go here. That's not how that works. This is not a valid arrow right now. So that's going to be a win for white. Okay, what if the king doesn't take? What if the bishop takes? So after I play bishop c3, what if the bishop takes? Well, it's a very similar theme. I play a5. If you take this, this pawn runs. Okay, maybe you don't do that, because you recognize that, of course. Well, what do? Do you play c4? Does that really help? Let's say c4. What is that going to do? a6. How are you stopping both of these? You want to get here? It's going to be the same situation as before. I have two pawns, and one of them is going to become a queen. Maybe c4 wasn't the best move then, even though that's what the computer is saying. So, what do you want to play? A king up? It doesn't make any sense. Whatever you want to do, bishop here, bishop there, it doesn't make sense. You're going to still lose because these pawns are deadly. Okay, so the king can't take, and the bishop can't take. So what does that mean? Well, after bishop c3, maybe you don't take at all. Maybe you just do something else. Well, what is that something else? Maybe you say, okay, well, I recognize this pawn's going to run. Maybe I can try to preemptively get there. Maybe I can play bishop f8 with the idea of maybe pushing this pawn, getting on this diagonal. Good idea. After a5, does it work? Not quite, because again, you still can't take this. It's kind of nice leaving the king and the bishop next to each other. But after c4, it's just the same problem. I play here, and you're going to have to give up a diagonal. Right? Do you see how this works? Bishop c5, that's fine. You can take this one if you want. I have another one. And how are you stopping this? You're not. So it doesn't work. Well, if that's not going to work, after bishop c3, it's actually just dead lost for black in this position. So really, this whole brilliant sequence started with this bishop a5 move. So maybe you might go, well, wait a second. Does black have to play king b3? Can they play something else? And the answer is yes, they can. But it's still not a win. So in this position, the best move for black is actually bishop f6. The computer recognizes this whole sequence of running around and doing that, but they don't want to go into it. Well, that's fine. Just because I made this move, I wasn't expecting you to approach my pawn. It didn't have to work out that way. In this position, the best move for white, there are plenty of good moves. There's king g2, there's king e2, bishop e1 even. Kind of slow play it. Personally, I'd play king e2 because I want to centralize my king because I know I have this trick. And what do? You're kind of getting squeezed. Bishop g7, that's fine. Bishop e1, I'm going to start pushing this pawn up the board, and there's not much you can do about it. You can't really approach me because of the way I have this blockade here. Isn't this just awesome? And you can't really go this way because then you're too far behind and this pawn just runs. So in this position, king d5, like what are you going to do? King d3, right? That's what I'd play. Who knows if that's the best move? c4 check, I have to be careful, right? That's fine. King c2. I have two pawns that are on opposite flanks of the board. This is a perfect example of having two strengths that can't be tied down from one bishop. Opposite flanks of the board. Very valuable lesson. So hopefully you can extract that lesson from this position. One piece is helpful, but that's not going to cover two diagonals. And I'll just stop at this variation because really it doesn't matter what I do next. So king c5 is the best move. It says, yeah, that's fine. I can keep going on. I go here. You're going to have to trade with me. You're going to have to get off the diagonal. That's either way, it's fine. Right? You can keep playing this out, but I don't need to do that. So that's it. I think hopefully you learned something from that. If you look at the position, there's so much to extract. Right? And that's what I love about these puzzles. They're nice one move, two move puzzles, but it's a theme. It's a deeper meaning you get. And after bishop a5, you realize that time is so important in chess. It's also very important in life, right? If they approach you, not that way, if they approach you, you have just one tempo where everything works. They take you, you win. They take you this way, you still win. Having two strengths on opposite ends is an incredible way to win. But that's it for this video. If you enjoy the content, be sure to consider subscribing. I put new videos out all the time, and my whole goal is to spread the amazing game of chess and to help out charity. So that's it for now. Thanks so much. Bye.